HR issues can kill you. One complaint against your company can turn your world upside down. And you spend way too much time dealing with HR when you should be spending your time on making a profit. You should talk to Bambee. With Bambee, get access to your own dedicated US-based HR manager starting at just $99 per month. They get to know you and your business while providing HR expertise and the personal touch you need and want. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambee's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 a year, but Bambee starts at $99 per month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambee can take off your plate. Go to Bambee.com right now and type in Accelerate under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Spelled BAM, BEE.com. Bambee.com. Type in Accelerate.
For the ones who get going when the going gets tough, and the ones who know we're tougher together. For the Pathfinders breaking new ground, Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as fast access to experts and 24/7 customer support. Because we know you have people depending on you, so you can always depend on us. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome to Accelerate Your Business Growth with your host, Diane Helbig. Diane is a leading small business development and leadership coach, author, and speaker who is passionate about sharing valuable ideas, tips, and techniques with business professionals worldwide. Diane brings you the world's experts and gurus in all things business. Whether it's sales, structure, social media, planning, or plateauing, guests bring their expertise and energy to each episode. When growing your business is your focus, Accelerate Your Business Growth is the show to listen to. Got a topic or guest suggestion? Let Diane know. The goal is to make sure you have the information you need to move your business forward. Thanks for joining us. Settle in and enjoy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's podcast is sponsored by Audible.com. Audible.com is a leading provider of spoken audio entertainment and information. Listen to audiobooks whenever and wherever you want. Get a free book when you sign up for a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/businessgrowth. Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast continues to enjoy inclusion on lists of the best podcasts to listen to for small business owners, entrepreneurship, sales, leadership, all things business. And that is really due to the wonderful guests who I've had the honor of speaking with over the years. These are folks who have expertise in particular areas of business, and they join me to have a conversation where they share that expertise with all of you. That way you can get the information you need, put it to work in your business so that you can be more successful and happier. Today is no different. My guest today is Rylee Meek. Rylee spent years working in sales, and although he was successful at it, he was selling things he wasn't excited about. So he founded the Social Dynamic Selling System, a thriving company that has generated over $80 million in the past 8 years. His passion is to teach business owners how they too can obtain predictable, sustainable, and scalable income primarily through dinner seminar marketing. Thanks so much for joining me today, Rylee.
Yeah, hey Diane, happy to be here. This will be fun.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to have you here. And the first thing that I would like to ask you is, would you please explain what social dynamic selling is?
You bet. Happy to do that. I get that question a lot, actually, when I make reference to my company. And social dynamic selling at the core is what you had mentioned. It is selling through dinner presentations, dinner seminars. So we invite people out for a free steak dinner typically, or chicken, or whatever the menu is for that evening. And we do a presentation on a particular product or service, establishing that person as the authoritative figure within their industry. And then the real point of it, or the goal with any event that we do, is to get our audience to know, like, and trust us. As you know, people do business with those that they know, like, and trust. And so we try to create an environment we create that social dynamic environment within a group setting that allows the customer, or the potential customer, to, feel comfortable and good about taking the next step, or allowing us to ask for that potential sale.
Interesting. Okay. So why do you think that works so well?
Well, there's a number of reasons why. Part of the reason I even started this company was, as you'd mentioned, I've been in sales for most of my life, but I was always used to selling one-on-one, and which is great. I loved being, commission-based and kind of in control of my own income, so to say. But I quickly realized I was still, my income was ultimately capped by the amount of time in a day. And, I could only do so many presentations depending upon how long those took. And so I totally bought into the fact that, I earn what I'm worth. I control kind of my destiny in that standpoint. But the only way I could earn more was to sell higher ticket products or items, until I was really kind of introduced to this concept of selling one to many versus one-on-one. And that, I think, part of the reason it works so well is it allows us to, as sales reps or entrepreneurs, business owners, it allows us to, not only get a group of people together, but it allows us to leverage our time and our income that we're investing into our marketing efforts. And if I can do, presentations to groups of people, making people feel comfortable, because we always host these events in kind of a neutral atmosphere or environment that they're going to be comfortable in, versus having to come into the place of business, or having that sales rep come into the home, and kind of that we're taking down that intimidating factor. And then in addition, the law of reciprocity always comes into play as well, where we're inviting them out for, an hour of their time, or depending upon the length of the presentation, I guess. And we're buying them a nice meal, and in return, they're going to sit there and listen to us. And, if we do a dynamic enough job, or a good enough presentation, we've enticed them enough, we get them to hopefully, take that next step in the buying process.
This is so interesting. So, what did I want to ask you? So, does it work in any industry? Like, do you think anyone in any industry could do this, or does it work better in certain industries?
I think it works better it depends on the product or service, I guess. I mean, the concept of getting a group of people together to get them to know, like, and trust you, I could say that's going to work for any industry, of course. However, there is this does take money to host these events. And I would want to make sure, again, regardless of your product or service or your offering, I would just want to make sure that there is, a high enough margin in there to make this a sustainable form of marketing. Because if you're selling a $48 widget with no additional upside or no additional lifetime value to that client or that customer, then I would be the first to tell you that this probably isn't going to be the best route to go, because you would have to sell a lot of those items in order to make a proper ROI on a campaign. And so we always start with the end in mind with our clients or our customers, in which we're teaching how to use this form of marketing. Is we want to make sure, who is your ideal client, who's your true avatar, and then kind of back into it to, figure out what your existing customer acquisition cost is now. Do you have that lifetime value to a customer, or is it, one bite at the apple? And then we'd want to kind of back into it and determine if this is a good program for you or not, because this isn't something, any of our clients that we take on, we always consider this a long-term relationship. And that's kind of that you'd mentioned that predictable, sustainable, and scalable selling system. I think that's really what we've been able to develop here, and perfect over the last decade, was having this be, within any company, this could be their sole marketing efforts, if that was something they wished.
Right. Okay, so talk some more about what you mean by predictable, sustainable, and scalable.
Yeah. Well, when I started out, I was used to selling one-on-one, like I had mentioned, but we were either buying leads, we were cold calling, we were door knocking. And if any salesman has, done that, they know, that's not always the funnest thing, but it is always a struggle. You make the sale, and then, okay, now what? You got to go find the next one. And it was just that constant kind of feast or famine type of lifestyle that I was used to. And you rode the highs and, tried not to dwell on the lows, but you just continued to plug away, just knowing that the numbers were going to work out. And, as much as I love the thrill of the hunt and everything, there is still just that unpredictability where you never know where your next sale is coming from. Or if you're buying leads, you and 12 other people probably bought the same lead, so it was always just that, the constant rush and stress of, trying to make that next sale. And so when we talk about a predictable and sustainable selling system, on a weekly basis right now, we host anywhere between probably 50 and 100 events every single week throughout the country for our clients. And most of them are doing that every single week. And so what I mean by that, I'll just tell you a recent example. We've had a solar company in Florida that we're hosting events for, and their goal, we're running events for them on a weekly basis. They're doing presentations, asking for the appointment to actually meet with them one-on-one to close deals, and they came to us and said, okay, great, we've really been able to create a great selling system here in the state of Florida, but we would like to move up to the Carolinas, but we have no brand recognition. We don't have any customers up there. Can you help us just to scale? And absolutely, that's one of the best things that we do is for anybody that's looking to grow or expand into new markets where they don't have any brand recognition or awareness at all. We ended up filling events in a town in South Carolina for them, in which they simply had to fly in, do their presentation, and ask for the appointments, and ultimately they closed deals without ever having a brick and mortar business, or having to take on that huge upfront capital expense to develop a brand and that awareness into an area. So when we talk about predictability, I can do that every single week in multiple markets throughout the country. And because I'm doing it every week, it's a sustainable format. And then the scalability is that you can throw a dart at a map, and I within reason, we'll be able to find an area to host an event, and get invitations out and have you doing your presentation within that area within a month, 5 to 6 weeks or so.
That's fascinating. It feels like there's, when you were talking about that, I kept getting the feeling there's like an art to doing this.
Sure.
Right, a method, a process that. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. That's early on. I didn't realize that was necessary. I didn't realize that you could, the data that's out there on who I want to invite to my events. It was just like, I'm just, self-addressing envelopes or, mailing out postcards and hoping I get some calls. And just, over the decade of doing this, I realized that, we can get extremely specific with who we would even be inviting to our events. And so that's what I mentioned. We always start with the end in mind, and we want to know who your true customer is, or who that true client is. And some business owners or sales reps have no clue. They just are trying to sell to anybody and everybody. But for those that have been doing it long enough, they usually have a pretty good idea of who their ideal client is. And it could be, women 5'8" and under, between the ages of 30 and 60, or, with certain household incomes. And so we can get really, really specific on who we're going to invite to our events. And that's when we craft our invitation and develop the message that we want to have come across, just so we have continuity throughout all of our events, which overall, it helps the whole process of getting them to know, like, and trust you as that authoritative figure within your specific industry. So yeah, I mean, it is an art. It's been a fun ride over the last decade or so. But when I first started out, it was just me trying to figure it out. It was very expensive in the beginning, but I was able to make sales and make money as I was figuring it out. And I think everything that I had to go through the first few years early on. I made a lot of mistakes, but through those mistakes, I've been able to figure out how to really put together it's a well-oiled machine that we've got put together here right now.
Yeah, it feels like as long as you've got it that way, then that's part of what works with it.
Yep, absolutely.
The system, yeah. So, if someone how do I want to ask this question? Here's how I want to ask this question. So it feels to me like the company that's going to be doing the seminar, they have to have someone who has expertise in a certain area of what they do and is able to get in front of even a small room of people and share that information in a way that builds that trust.
Sure.
So do you find that most companies have that? They just haven't known how to focus that energy, or
I would say so.
Is that a challenge?
Well, I think back to how this all kind of came about, and it was when I very first started. I didn't have a product. I didn't have anything to really offer. I became aware of this concept of selling one-to-many. And it took me a while to figure out, like, what could I sell using this format? And usually people have an idea or a product or service, and then they just don't know how to sell it or how to take it to the
Right.
mass. I was kind of opposite. But I've always been a firm believer that, it's he who controls the customer controls everything. And even starting out when I was selling products, it was like, it wasn't like I was excited about the product. What I was excited about was to be able to provide an income and a lifestyle for my family. That's always been my goal and motivation. And I thought about, the early on when I first started doing these dinner seminars, and, a few years into it, it was, I had made a decent amount of money doing this, and we live a great, comfortable life. And I came home on a Wednesday night, and I just had this, again, it was another pretty successful sales week, but I just had like this pit kind of within my stomach of just this feeling of unfulfillment. And that's when I realized that, I wasn't selling, I had zero passion for the products that I was selling. But my passion was people. And I love being around people and supporting them and coaching them and, consulting on a sales side of thing. And so I really thought back to before I had even done dinner seminars and that feast and famine kind of lifestyle that I lived, of always constantly trying to hustle and find the next sale. And I thought, man, there's got to be business owners out there, or entrepreneurs or sales reps that were just like me in that time period, but maybe have a passion for their product or a passion for their idea. They just don't know how to reach the masses. And I thought, man, maybe I could team up with companies like that and help them, because I quickly realized if you build it, they do not come. You've got to have a system to be able to go get them. You can have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, it isn't going to do any darn good. And so that's when I grabbed a pen that night. It was just funny. My wife and daughter were already asleep, and I just started to write like our entire system of what I had learned over the last few years of how to set up campaigns, marketing campaigns, how how to fill the rooms, how to set up the room for the best form of a presentation, how to do the timing of when to have salads, when to have dinner, do you have dessert? I started to write out the scripts of how we take our phone calls of people RSVPing, and how I design my presentations. And I wrote for hours and hours and hours. And that is now what we know as the social dynamic selling system. And that's really when I pivoted in my career from selling my own products and services to teaching others how to do it. And that was kind of the early stages of the social dynamic selling system. And where we focus our efforts on now is teaching others how to sell using dinner seminar marketing.
Interesting. This is so fascinating. I'm going to take a quick sponsor break, and then I have some more questions for you. Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast is happy to be sponsored by Audible.com. Audible.com is a leading provider of spoken digital audio entertainment and information. They have over 150,000 titles to choose from, and you can listen to them on any device, including whatever you're hearing us on right now. And if you sign up at our link, which is audibletrial.com/businessgrowth, you get one free audiobook and a 1-month trial of the service. Some examples of books you can listen to on audible.com are Two Brain Business 2.0 by Chris Cooper and Strategy Man versus the Anti-Strategy Squad by Rich Horwath. So visit audibletrial.com/businessgrowth, explore the books that are of interest to you, and receive one free audiobook when you sign up for the trial. Today we're speaking with Rylee Meek about using dinner seminar marketing for lead generation. Okay, so before we took the break, I said something about it seemed like there was an art to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I am curious how it is like a science.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's art and science to lots of different things, I guess. The science of it is really what we've perfected. When I've mentioned this is a well-oiled machine, what we've really kind of perfected is leading up to the actual campaigns. Anytime we would engage with a client, we can handle literally everything from filling the room to 10 steps before that of identifying who your true client avatar is. We really want to focus in on that and peel back the onion and figure out who that true customer is. Because from there, then we can help to kind of design our invitation, craft that message, and allow that to have that continuity throughout the whole process leading up to the actual presentation. And I think that's important because, in the presentation, we can fill the events and, have 20, 30, 40 people in the room, whatever that ideal number is. But at that point, we've done our job, and now it's you're the ring, it's your circus and you're the ringleader at that point. Like, you got to be able to, speak well enough, have a dynamic enough personality to get them, to make that buying decision, whether that be yes or no, that's fine. But we want to be able to take people on that emotional journey, to come to that realization that you are the authoritative figure in your industry, and that if this is a good product or service for them, that it makes sense for them to do business with you. And so we always, we get into the real meat of it where, in any sales position, everybody talks about wanting to, sell the benefits of that product, but we go even much deeper than that, and getting to the benefits of the benefits. And being able to speak to, when you're speaking to a group of people, being able to speak to the subconscious to get them to make that buying decision, or ultimately at least take that next step to allow you to ask for the sale or present price or whatever the case is. So there's definitely a science involved throughout that entire process, up until, we get them to make that buying decision. And then, from there, the presentation side of things is definitely where the art aspect will come into it, and how well of a presenter, or a closer that sales rep actually is that's doing the presentation. which is definitely something that I was not good at when I started. I had darn near flunked my speech class in high school. So my, my, my teacher, Mr. Fonder, I think would be pretty impressed with me now, being able to get up in front of a group and speak to people.
That's so great. So why do you think this concept doesn't get like enough recognition? I don't know. I feel like the only people I know who do this kind of thing are financial advisors.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
What do you think's going on?
Yeah, well, I think they were kind of the originals to take this concept, and we fill events every week for financial advisors throughout the country as well. But I think what we've done is we've been able to make this a kind of a universal model that works so well in numerous different industries, whether it's the medical industry, whether it's cosmetic, dental, the home remodeling, investment clubs, travel clubs. We've worked with in all of those different industries, business opportunities, and I think that the main reason this isn't necessarily a well-known marketing platform for many companies is certainly the fear of public speaking. That's one of the biggest fears out there. People don't think that they can learn it, or that's too intimidating for them. But also, like I said, this does take time. The science of this, even if right now you said, okay, I'm looking to do our first campaign, can you help us? Yeah, we absolutely can, but it takes a good 5 to 6 weeks to set up a proper campaign and to do it successfully. And so this is a marketing form that does take some commitment, both from a time standpoint, but also from a financial standpoint as well. And again, if you're selling a $30 product, this isn't going to be the best platform for you. But if you're making, if you can have profit margins of at least $1,000 to $1,500 a sale, there's a good chance that this would be a good fit for you. But anything less than that, it usually the return on investment just isn't quite there. And then, like I said, I would be the first to tell you if this does make sense or if this doesn't make sense, because the last thing I'd want is to have you, not have a successful campaign with working with us.
Right, of course. And I'm wondering if you can give us an example of like a success story where somebody did this and it like converted into business, just so people can sort of see it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I gave the solar example. There we helped to grow, kind of establish that existing client base in Florida for them. From there, we did those campaigns up in both Carolinas. Now we've helped them expand into, and for going from zero sales from Florida to the Carolinas. Our first campaign, they closed actually 6 households, 6 deals out of that. And these are solar packages, usually ranging anywhere between like $18,000 and $30,000. Great margins, in an industry like that. We're working with some doctors and just kind of some regenerative medicine things recently. Went from just this last year, zero sales to we've done since March. We provided a little over 9 million in business for them.
Wow.
So again, we're in numerous different industries, but it's not my job to set their goals or their how quickly they're wanting to grow or scale. We're just here to support, and we're here to help fill those events. And again, at any level, we could train and teach sales reps how to do presentations as well. Or oftentimes there's usually a sales trainer where we kind of train the trainer, or that business owner takes it, kind of the bull by the horns and learns the system themselves. And so we're kind of we can be an a la carte option, or we can be a complete done for you sales system as well.
Fascinating. Okay. Now, is there a sweet spot when it comes to how many people should be in attendance at something like this?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And this, again, it really depends on the goal here and what our product or service is. I love keeping events between like 18 to 25 people. But I've hosted events with, 60 to 80 people. It just depends on the level of engagement that we feel we need in order to have a successful event. I like the smaller ones and doing, 2 or 3 in a day, smaller than actually one big one, just because we can interact a little bit better with that smaller group. We don't lose people. And it helps us just to control the timing of food coming out. And if you're at a small town steakhouse, they can't throw out 50 steaks, within a half hour. So it's really dependent upon, again, who our true customer is, who we're looking to entice. And then based upon that and the level of engagement that we need from the presentation standpoint, on how big that room would be. But my kind of sweet spot that I love is usually 18 to 20 people. I feel like it's a great size where I can still look everybody in the eye, and go around and ask questions without it getting too out of control, so to say. Yeah,
I could see that.
Yeah.
And then, so the people come, there's dinner, they have the seminar, and then there's some sort of follow-up process, some sort of process to stay connected to those people and to identify who's interested in learning more?
Yeah, absolutely. The beautiful thing about this is as they RSVP, we've already bought this person's data, their name, address, phone number. We pretty much have all that information. So when they are RSVP, we have that in kind of an online portal that gives us access to it. And the nice thing is that those are your specific leads. This isn't something that had to be shared with somebody else, or you're not trying to rush to be the first one to give them a quote, or whatever it is your product is. These are your self-generated leads. And so we are creating a large database over time, but the real point of the dinner seminar, the presentation, is we're constantly trying to sift the sand and get to the decision makers. And again, it can be a yes or a no. It doesn't matter. We just want to be able to get them to make a decision so you know where to focus your efforts. I always, there's so much talk online now about an online funnel system. And what we've really developed here is what I call this kind of our offline funnel system. So I can take, 5,000 invitations and hopefully get 50 responders that will actually then show up to my presentation. And if I do a good enough job, hopefully I'll get half of them to give me an appointment. And then I have the ability to meet with them, but I also have their information, so I can build out additional follow-up campaigns or drip campaigns and things like that to keep them in the loop. Because just because they didn't do business with you that day doesn't mean that they won't in the future. Again, depending upon your product or service. So yeah, there's multiple bites at the apple if you're doing a proper campaign.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, I find this fascinating. I really appreciate you joining me and sharing the information. Can you tell the listeners how they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Our website is socialdynamicselling.com. So socialdynamicselling.com. There's some great information on our website. There's case studies of some of our own clients. I think we have up there my new book. I've got an Amazon bestseller book out now called Food for Thought, which is really exactly what we just talked about, how to use dinner seminar marketing to grow your business in ways you never really thought possible. So that can be picked up. And I wrote this book really because I thought back to, the early days of not having any money and being able to start out. So I wanted to be able to provide content to those young, not necessarily young, but young in career, I guess we'll say, that have a vision or, have a product or a service. They just don't know how to reach the masses. And so I put this book together to help kind of at least start that initial thought process of how to set up your own marketing campaigns utilizing dinner seminars.
That's terrific. Well, thank you, and thanks for sharing that information. And listeners, I always like to thank you. You're who we are here for, as well as our sponsor, Audible.com. To get a free trial of Audible.com and a free audiobook, go to audibletrial.com/businessgrowth to sign up. As always, continue to prosper and be curious. And until we meet again on another episode of Accelerate Your Business Growth, goodbye and good day.
We are Jackie Clayton and Katie Van Horn, co-hosts of the Inclusive AF podcast. We're two diversity, equity, and inclusion peeps who love both what we have in common and what makes us different.
During the day, we use our superpowers to block bias and break down systems that are inequitable within companies and create inclusive AF places to work. We're also BFFs who have tough conversations about our different lived experience. Come have a listen and learn something new.